Hello everybody. Today's video I'd like to start off with a small story. The story dates back to my college days where there were two clubs. One was the business club and second one was the entrepreneurship club. The most heated discussion between the business club and the entrepreneurship club was which club is actually adding more value to the student community. And the most common argument from the business club says that, hey, all startups are businesses. So it is redundant to actually have an entrepreneurship club. So in today's video, I'd like to give my perspective on this argument and also shed light to founders who are building their own company today on what actually matters to differentiate between a startup and a business and what are the things that you need to measure when you're building a startup. So let's get started. So what does a startup actually mean to me? Startup essentially is a company that is designed to grow rapidly from its inception. Unlike the traditional businesses like restaurants or salons, which are aimed for earning money and have a manageable growth, the likes of Cred, Swiggy, Flipkart, all of these companies are actually designed to grow faster, and for that, they are built with a different DNA. And that is why there is a specific word coined to them called as startups. Let us take an example of a hypothetical SaaS company called as Ramlala Technologies. Today, Ramlala Technology is earning 10,000 rupees per month as recurring revenue, which is 10,000 rupees MRR. Now, to actually understand if Ramlala Technologies is a startup, it needs to answer 4 questions. The first question is that Ramlala Technologies has designed addressing the real problem that the consumer is facing, and do the consumer actually need it? Second, is Ramlala's idea feasible enough that there is available technology to build it, and do they really have the necessary founding team that is required to build it? The third question is, does Ramlala Technologies have a sustainable business model for it to grow? And the most important question is, does Ramlala Technologies has a scalable solution? Does that mean that Ramlala Technologies can serve hundreds or thousands of users at any given point in time? And that is what makes a particular startup. It needs to be desirable, it needs to be feasible, viable, and most importantly, scalable. I get the question very often, right? The question being, all companies grow. What makes a company or what makes a business different from a startup? Is there a particular threshold number that I need to hit to classify as a startup? I think the question itself is a wrong question. Startup is a pole, not a threshold. So there is no magical number that a startup has to hit as a growth rate to classify as a startup. Rather, it's a journey of persistent effort, relentless of the founder to actually solve for the problem that the consumer is facing. Starting one is at first not more than declaration of one ambition. You're not only growing a company, but you are pledging to grow a company rapidly. So the real question is not what growth rate does a startup have, but what growth rate does successful startups tend to have. Now, why does growth rate really matter a lot for a startup? Let us bring back the example of Ramlala Technologies. If Ramlala's Technologies is answering the 4 fundamental questions of desirability, feasibility, viability, and scalability, then growth rate makes all the difference in the world of whether Ramlala is going to succeed or fail. So if it was making 10,000 rupees MRR today and it is growing at 1% per week of growth rate, probably by the end of the year, it would make around 47,500 rupees per month as monthly recurring revenue. But if you flip the switch and say that it's growing at a rate of 5% per week, that means that it can potentially make up to 2.02 crores as monthly recurring revenue at the end of 3 years. And slight shift of growth rate made the entire difference for Ramlala Technologies. So if you try to chart Ramlala Technologies in an S-curve, firstly, the founder in the initial stages would be struggling, figuring out, and there would be really no growth for the company in the first initial period of its time. But once it hits an inception point, that is when things start going crazy. That is where they will start seeing a lot of interest generated by their potential customers, a lot of them requesting for demos, a lot of them looking forward to using that product. After that growth rate is the third stage where the startup actually becomes a traditional business where it needs to have certain set of processes, certain set of people to actually run it. and grows like any other large organization. What really determines whether a startup is going to fail or succeed is the slope of that growth rate, right? If your growth rate is high, you actually grow very big and can form a very big organization. But if you are not able to do that, then you'll probably not be able to succeed in this particular space. And growth rate is actually not an absolute number. Growth rate is actually a ratio between how many new customers are you able to add against the already existing user base that you have. So that is the ratio that a founder has to look at while they're measuring their growth rate. According to Y Combinator, the ideal growth rate is somewhere between 5 to 7% per week. The reason Y Combinator measures it by week and not by month or by year is founders in the initial stages tend to procrastinate by strategizing a lot for the next 2 years and not actually going out there on the ground and executing what is supposed to be done. And hence, that is why the duration of the measurement is at a short span of 1 week. So think about it. If you are able to grow a company at 5% every week, it is going to yield to much different business, but also much greater rewards rather than just sitting down with your initial vision and strategizing by just not doing anything. As a founder, if this growth rate is hitting weekly on weekly targets, it's actually very difficult to do that. And that is why that is the only unit of measurement that matters for a founder at an early stage that drives all sort of decisions. Be it, oh, should I attend this particular conference tomorrow? Or is this hire going to help me grow my business? Or can I actually reach out to them to partner with them? All these questions can be answered of whether or not if it is going to directly help you impact that particular growth rate of your company. If not, then you already have your answer. In the previous example as well, we've seen that this small change in growth rate can actually result in very big quantitative and qualitative result of your particular company. And that is why this space gathers a lot of eyeballs. And this is the very reason why this space has a coined term called as startups. It's a very high risk and high reward game at the end of the day. And this is why it attracts a lot of venture capital who wants to invest in these particular companies or larger organizations who are looking to acquire startups on a regular basis. If there is one takeaway for you in today's video, growth isn't just part of startups, it is what it actually defines it. The relentless pursuit of high growth companies differentiates startups from traditional businesses. If you want to understand startups, you have to understand growth. Growth is everything in this world, and the core thing that drives this growth is technology. That is why it's a rationally economical choice for people to take that risk and start a company by putting everything in their life at stake. It is the very reason why you have venture capital investing in the startups. Growth also defines why most successful startups end up taking VC money even if they don't want it at that point in time, because they'd like to control their growth rate rather than leaving it up to the market. And invariably, growth is also why a lot of startups actually get acquisition offers. So according to me, starting up is more like a researcher, right? You're on to solving for a particular problem, but you don't know which problems are actually solvable. Just like how researchers tend to find out the truth as they go in their journey. That's it from my side, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. So if there's any more questions, your thoughts and opinions for this particular topic, do drop them in the comment section below. Thank you.